One of the greatest Stoic figures was the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who lived from 121 to 180 AD. As emperor, he faced immense challenges ruling over the vast Roman Empire during a time of plague, war, and corruption. Yet through practicing Stoicism, he maintained his calm, virtuous character. In his journal Meditations, Marcus wrote of constantly examining his judgments and perceptions to uphold reason and integrity. He observed daily rituals like expressing gratitude upon waking to maintain perspective. During times of hardship, he took refuge in philosophical principles rather than reactive passions. Despite immense power and responsibilities, Marcus focused internally on bettering himself through patience, justice, and service to others. He knew true fulfillment lay in virtuous living according to nature rather than fleeting pleasures or material gains vulnerable to change. Even facing death shortly after a military victory, Marcus remained tranquil and devoted to his duties until the end through Stoic discipline. Another influential Stoic was the philosopher Seneca, who lived from 4 BC, 65 AD. Seneca rose to prominence as a tutor, orator, and statesman before being appointed by Emperor Nero as his advisor. Throughout a life containing both privilege and persecution, Seneca practiced moderation, justice, and care for others in accordance with Stoic virtues. Though enormously wealthy, Seneca lived simply according to nature by fulfilling his roles judiciously rather than seeking indulgences disrupting his good character. Even after being wrongly accused and ordered to commit suicide by Nero due to political machinations, Seneca accepted his fate calmly and spent his last days encouraging friends in philosophy and pursuing meaning over materialism to the end through Stoic resignation fortified by reason over passions. The Roman slave and philosopher Epictetus similarly advocated inner freedom and resilience amid life's hardships through cultivated character over external circumstances alone determining happiness precariously. As a former slave, he experienced direct hardships yet founded his own philosophy school to help others through difficulties rationally rather than emotionally exacerbating problems reactively. Despite disadvantages, Epictetus found fulfillment through diligent duties and virtues developed rather than statuses changeably possessed. His teachings emphasized perceiving existence's patterns clearly to optimistically embrace rather than antagonistically react against reality's inevitable uncertainties and difficulties presented for inner resources strengthened through challenges addressed judiciously rather than suppressed or fought against destabilizingly. Continuing in ancient Rome, the orator and statesman Cicero also embraced Stoic perspectives to enduring turbulence through equilibrium navigated rationally rather than passionately aggravated distressingly. Throughout a life containing both honors and dangers amid the tumultuous political climates, Cicero prioritized integrity, justice, and gratitude to retain balanced perspective despite vulnerabilities encountered through his prominent roles. Even facing execution threats due to his political stances, Cicero remained cautiously optimistic by focusing efforts onto qualities alone improvable through wisdom ripened judiciously versus fixating despairingly on outcomes beyond governance yet not inhibiting rational responses either through resignation cloaking reactive avoidance. His works fostered presence through challenges addressed purposefully yet thoughtfully versus dissociated withdrawal from life's providential educative experiences. One modern figure who greatly embodied Stoic virtues was Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. Through his experiences in Nazi concentration camps where he lost his family, Frankl maintained his humanity and will to find purpose even in the direst of circumstances. In his acclaimed book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl outlined how cultivating meaning through compassion and contribution facilitated survival amid immense suffering that could have driven one to despair or resentment. Despite unimaginable hardships, Frankl felt inner freedom persisted through dignity and presence of mind nurtured by living according to higher principles over fleeting sensations alone. Another Stoic who endured immense challenges with fortitude and grace was Nelson Mandela, the anti-apartheid revolutionary and former president of South Africa. Mandela spent over 27 years imprisoned for his activism against racist oppression, yet harbored no bitterness through those long, difficult years. Seeing the bigger picture of overcoming societal injustices non-violently according to conscience helped Mandela move beyond circumstances he could not control with patience, wisdom, and forgiveness. Even after emerging from prison, he advocated reconciliation to heal division and build a unified, democratic nation grounded in equality and human rights through strength of character over retaliation that risks further escalating conflicts. The writer and advocate Brené Brown also incorporated Stoic perspectives, emphasizing virtues like courage, honesty and perseverance through difficulties and uncertainties. In her groundbreaking research on topics like vulnerability, empathy, and shame, Brown recognized hardships as universally shared aspects of the human experience that can cultivate resilience and compassion when faced with openness, patience, and philosophical clarity instead of fear, judgment or dissociation. By reflecting on life's providential lessons through difficulties presented for intrinsic development, Brown applies Stoic understandings to helping others through personal and societal challenges purposefully yet thoughtfully versus reactively exacerbated emotionally. Her works illustrate how presence strengthens community through equity's bonds of interdependence cooperatively nurtured versus detachment separations deteriorating relations conflictually. Abraham Lincoln also embodied Stoic virtues like justice, integrity, and balancing firmness with mercy amid turbulent times. As a leader navigating the immense moral crisis and divisive conflict of the American Civil War and slavery, Lincoln maintained calm and determination, solving problems rationally through patience, empathy, and nonviolence according to conscience developed. Even facing death threats and the immense burdens of his office, Lincoln participated resiliently, focusing inward on duties and virtues improvable versus fixating anxiously on outcomes alone ungovernable yet still impactable through discretion exerted judiciously. His fortitude emerged perceptively navigating reality's complexity versus fighting circumstances aggravating unrest reactionarily as personal affronts alone. The late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg demonstrated many Stoic virtues through her pioneering legal career and life's challenges. Despite facing sexism and health issues, Ginsburg prioritized integrity, justice, and service through diligent work according to conscience developed. Rather than resenting injustices she could not control as a woman in law, Ginsburg focused efforts onto improving equity judiciously through strategic cases establishing gender equality precedents. In the process, she inspired generations towards fulfillment found courageously bettering society cooperatively versus privileges attained precariously alone dependent on circumstances opinions fluctuating. Having survived cancer recurrently yet remaining active through duties met vigorously, Ginsburg also personified presence amid life's uncertainties navigated rationally versus reactively fixating fearfully on future's unknowns potentially debilitating participation. Her fortitude-centered virtues and purposefulness cultivated discreetly yet urgently versus fortunes provisionally bestowing pleasures through prestige positional yet leaving still wanting intrinsically if dissatisfactions persisted through non-attachments imperfectly exercised when identifications compounded vulnerabilities. Martin Luther King Jr. likewise actualized justice and cooperation with impermanence judiciously rather than antagonistically through detachment weakening reforms integrity and momentum if bitterness supplanted equity as the method and goal driving movements forward equity's illuminations versus backward hatred's darkness. Throughout turbulent eras amid immense divisiveness and dangers faced for equity's cause through nonviolence, King maintained a vision of unity realized peacefully through conscience collective ripened cooperatively versus directives enforced reactionarily risking further schisms through conflict exacerbated by detachment separation. For King as the others, true fulfillment meant intrinsic strength ripened navigating reality's complexities resourcefully versus privileges grasped at others' expense precariously through circumstance or supremacy asserted at humanity's detriment. His fortitude blossomed equably guiding participations gifts rediscovered through difficulties encountered judiciously versus condemned as afflictions restricting flourishing through anger, fear